What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Fully Game YouTube channel. If you're new here, if it's your first time, I hope you like what you see. If you do, I hope you stick around. Please hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on. Today we have Jamie Peacock, a rugby league legend. Jamie's a highly respected man on and off the rugby field, a public speaker, a well-being expert, and an all-around fitness fanatic. On this episode, we talk everything rugby league, from flattening Willie Mason to not being able to get into the Featherstone under-19s team, to then going on to Leeds Rhinos and achieving some huge accolades. We find out what scares Jamie Peacock, Jamie's top 3 teammates, how to be disciplined, motivated, how to better yourself, the plan to make rugby league great again, and everything else inside Jamie Peacock's life. Make sure you stay right to the end when Jamie gets relaxed and the conversation really opens up. I hope you enjoy this episode and I hope you stick around. Thank you for watching.
But how many corners do I have to turn? How many times do I have to learn? All the love I have is in my mind. But I'm a lucky man with fire in my hands. Happiness, something in my own place. I'm steady naked, smiling, I feel no disgrace with who I am.
Jamie Peacock, welcome to Fully Game Podcast, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you're well.
It's great to be on here. Thanks for having me on.
Good man. Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, Happy New Year too, yeah.
Before we even start, have you set any goals or resolutions?
Do you believe in setting intentions and New Year's resolutions?
I think it's a good word you use there, intentions, but I think the key with... There is some research showing that if you set an intention and then tell everybody what you're going to do, then you get the same kind of chemical lift from actually doing it. So since I found that out, I know what I want to do, and I know it's going that way, but I'll keep it to myself. Do you know? Because I think that makes more sense to me. So I'm going to run some marathons this year. I'm going to run some high rocks time. But the times I want to go for, I don't want to put them out there, because then off the back of that, if you put them out there, then you get that rush of achieving it already, which I am. And when I do the marathon, I'll be honest when I've finished. I've either made my time or not, and I'll say it then. Do you know? So I think everyone should use this period of time to clear the decks a little bit, because it is a good period to do that, because most people are at work. I know lots of people do have to work, but the vast majority of the nation don't work. So you can get some clear head space, I think, over this time. And I think when you have clear headspace, it's easier to define what kind of success would look like for you in 2024. So I've got mine, you know, like personal and physical and professional as well, the 3 Ps there. One thing I'm going to invest in hard in is journaling. You know, in my business, I preach a lot around journaling. I've done it before, but I'm really trying to pick it up the first 100 days, because I think if you can get off to a great start in the year, then you kind of get momentum for the year, then you create more momentum. But if you get off to a lazy start to the year, then that kind of sets a tone, I think.
How does the journaling look for you? So what are you trying to put on paper?
My journaling, so it'll be around, there's 2 things I'm trying to give up. I'm trying to give up sugar at the moment, which is killing me, and I'm trying to really lower my saturated fat. So I'm trying to monitor those. So the first one is, not having like processed sugar. I know you're going to get sugar in fruit and things, but because I'm training all the time, I think it's an excuse to eat a bit crap where it's not, is it really? And as you get older, you can't do that. And then it's around saturated fat for me as well. And one other thing, I buy too many clothes, so I'm not buying any clothes for the first 100 days. And then after that, it's around some gratitude. You know, what the things I'm thankful for. What's my kind of intention of the day as well, and what training I've done that day. Just like, I don't want to spend more than 3 to 5 minutes on it each day, because I get bored otherwise.
Yeah. Journaling is one of my big ones as well. I want to do that every day. Yeah. I got into a good routine of it every night. I was doing it, but then when I'd go to Warrington where my missus lives, I'd just fuck it all off. Yeah. But this year I want to do it every single night. I nearly didn't do it last night. I got in bed and I was like, oh shit, I forgot to journal. She's like, go and get it. You can't fail on first day. So I'm like, yeah, fair one. What you just said then about setting your goals but keeping it a secret and your time for your marathon, I understand that fully, but I'm opposite to that. I like to tell everyone what mine are, and it kind of makes me feel like I have to be accountable then.
Yeah, I agree with that. That social pressure can make you go towards a goal as well. It works either way. So I've done it before, the same as you, that right, put pressure on myself to do something, by putting it out there, it puts more pressure on and makes me do it when you don't feel like training, doesn't it? It motivates you to do it that way. There's like pros and cons either way with it, I think.
I get what you're saying about when you tell people you already feel like you've achieved it. It's like you're telling them, you might say like, oh, I'm aiming for this amount of time, and then because people are like, oh, he's aiming for that amount of time. You're like, oh, I don't even really have to achieve it now. They're already under impression I'm going to get that time.
Yeah, that's it.
I get what you're saying. If you write down your time and just keep it to yourself, then once you run the marathon, be like, right, I'll be honest, this is what time I aimed for. I've either beat it or I haven't. It's a good way to look at it.
To piggyback off that there, you know, when he mentions accountability there, how important is that in your world now? Someone who's been, the career you've had, how distant, all the success you've had, do you have someone who you're accountable to, or is it all inward?
Again, that's a good question. I think probably I'm at a time in my life through experience where I can be accountable to me, and I think I don't need like extrinsic motivators to make me accountable. I can make myself turn up and do things and get things done, and I can look at myself in the mirror and go, yeah, you were good today, or no, you were shit today, you should have done that today. I'm pretty honest, and I think that came during the backstage of your career. You become, obviously you're always accountable to your teammates in rugby league, which really drives you. You know, social accountability is a big thing, but I think one of the things that made me determined was that I was accountable to myself. I was pretty honest with myself around how I performed. And you might not do it in the first 12 hours, but over time, you know, over a day or so, you go, well, these are things I need to work better on. And I think that kind of process I got involved in rugby league that allowed me to stay at the top till I was very old, in rugby league terms anyway. I still have that now, so I'm accountable to me, you know, and I know that don't work out for everybody, but I think I'm in a position where I can do that, and I am honest enough with myself to turn up and show up.
You think that's DNA? Is that the person? Can that be trained, taught?
I think it's a bit of both. I think you've got to have a bit of that inside you. I think you just need to have some of that prepared to self-awareness, right? I don't think you can teach self-awareness, but I think you can expand on self-awareness. I think if you are already self-aware, then I think you're going to really struggle for somebody to teach you that. But then if you have some level of self-awareness, then I think you can really expand on that. And being self-aware then leads to, in my experience anyway, being accountable. So if you're self-aware of your own performances and your own strengths and inadequacies, then you can be self-aware of what good looks like for you, or what does success look like, or excellence. So I think it's half and half, but I do believe if you are surrounded by people who do hold themselves accountable, then it drives you to do that too as well, doesn't it? And if you're surrounded by people who don't hold themselves accountable, well, that will drag you down too, regardless of your kind of how you are intrinsically, you know.
You can see that in people. Like, we've got friends who, like you said earlier, we've got a lot of friends who fight and do a bit of bare knuckle boxing, and the person who can be honest with herself, like let's say Danny Christie, for instance, a friend of ours, he got beat on his fight. He posted a video a couple of days later, and he was like, I got shit knocked out of me there. I've not done enough. Where we've got some people who we know will be like, oh, the guy got a lucky shot on me, I won it. You know what I mean? Like, and in a way, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
But you know, if you can go back and look at yourself and be like, all right, I've done this today. How often would you do that? Because I sometimes, especially when I'm journaling, I'll break down a week and I'll say, right, this week, this is what I've done shit at. This is what I've done good at. This is what I can do better next time. Do you do that after every time you perform? You'll look back and be like, oh, you've done shit today, or would you do that at the end of every day?
That's a good question. Again, I think certainly when I was playing, you probably do it at the end of every training day, right? You know, particularly as you get older and you realise how valuable doing that is that did I train well today? What did I excel in? What didn't I do well? And what's the reasons behind that? And how can I be better the next day? And then you do that at the game straight away, you know. Well, we play Friday, but by Sunday, after let all the emotions settle, I'd be thinking, right, well, what went well, what didn't go well. And now for me, I'd probably be at the end of the day, as I shut down for the day, I'd be like, okay, honestly, what went well today? What was average? You know, what didn't go so well? And I think particularly if you have, with me, I have a big day coaching people or doing a talk, then I think you have really got to sit down and think, I did that well, and that's the reason why. Or I didn't do that well, that's the reason why behind it. So I think daily's a good way of doing it, but not too deep with it. And then also, I think it's good to review. You know, for me, I kind of got a little reviews going on in my head at the end of each week. So if I've got a long run on a Sunday, I think running for me is a lot. I love running, and I've got into it a lot since I finished playing. But I think running gives you great headspace to really deeply analyse what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and you have some great moments when you're running about which direction you want to go to. So thinking more long term with it. But I do believe you need that day-to-day assessment with it as well. You need to be on it daily.
Is that whilst do you mean whilst you're on a long run, you'll be thinking about life and planning
that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. So if I'm heading out for over an hour and a half, 2 hours, then I will start to think about, right, well, what does this next month look like, or where am I going this year, or what things are going well for me, and what am I not? Try to think of what am I not doing as well. So just has to go out with that view of having some deep questions and think about them, because I think you just get that. I think you think differently when you sweat, that's for sure, right? Don't you? You think with more clarity, I think. And I believe you've more space in your brain just when you're out just running and enjoying running.
Zero distractions as well. It's probably like how we live now. We can easily be distracted with the phone, all these other things.
Yeah.
On that run, you just focus and locked in on what you're doing, eh?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I just think I think running, if you get into it, or like any sports, but running in particular, I think you have moments of almost like just unbelievable insight into thinking, well, that's what I need to do off the back of it. So we can like plan things in our lives, but then sometimes we need insight, don't we? Where we just go, that's what I need to do. And more often than not, that's come for me while I've been running than any other thing.
I've been needing to like stop and write it down, though. Is it just all stay in the dome?
No, yeah, because it's a small idea. It's a small
you got like the best idea in the world, like fuck, mid-run.
No, but one run, I'll tell you the story actually, you're right. So this was like beginning of pandemic. So I'd written a well-being programme for the NHS for Year 7 students in Hull, previous to the pandemic started. Pandemic started and you could see everyone's well-being was going to shit, wasn't it? Like how many people like turned to drinking and stuff and that during it. And I was thinking to myself, the problem is that people are overloading people with too much information, right, around well-being. And that was going through my brain for a couple of weeks beforehand. And then I was out on this run and the idea for a 30-day wellbeing programme came. And I thought, I need to fucking run back and get this down. So I turned around and run back and wrote that one down because I just thought, I can't, there's too much going on here for me to remember.
And do you feel like you're getting just the absolute download of the full information you need to do? Or is it just an idea inception?
I think it's like the structure of an idea. So yeah, it's not everything you need in it, but it gives you, it's almost like there's 80% of the idea and then you can work out the rest around it later when you sat down and be a little bit more disciplined around it, a bit more strategic around it. But I think that insight and spark of idea comes in, and that's what you've got to jump on off the back of it.
I feel like I need to start running more. When I go on runs, all I can think about is how much my knees and feet are killing me. Before we dive into rugby league, I watched an interview or a clip of you talking about when you were aware of how your career was coming to an end. I think you said that it was getting a bit too physical. You noticed that you weren't in the top 3 or top 5 of players. 8 years down the line, you're now testing yourself and doing high rocks, ultras, marathons. How have you gone from realising rugby's too physical to now pushing your body to absolute limits as often as you can?
I think what happened was with the rugby was, so I was nearly 38 when I finished playing, and you could. And I reckon I was just off physically. It's like a couple of percent off physically, but a couple of percent at the elite levels is a massive amount, isn't it? And you could sense that people begin to sense that a bit. So it meant mentally I had to really step it up to try keep my standards where I wanted to do. And I think I did that at the end of it. But mentally and physically it was too tiring. I was playing games and I wouldn't feel... we'd get to Friday morning, the week after a game, we're going to play Friday night Edinburgh, and I'm still sore from the game from the week before. So it's really difficult to try perform and get yourself, be warming up and thinking, fucking hell, I feel really sore here. Whereas when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, you've got all that experience, but you've still got a lot of, I reckon, elasticity in how physical you are, so you bounce back and perform. And then I retired playing, and that was one of the reasons why, because I thought this is getting too physically demanding for me, and mentally. But then I didn't train for about 6 weeks, and it was the worst I'd ever felt in my life. Honestly, I felt terrible, and I thought after about 6 weeks that I've been influenced by in the wrong way. You hear people going, "Oh, I'm going to stop training when I play," and I thought I'll try to do that. But But the reality is, I like training. I saw like pre-season as getting paid to get fit, whereas other guys have been moaning their asses off about it. And I thought, I'm fucking paid to get fit here, and you're moaning about running up an hill, so just get on with it. And so that to me made me realise that physical training is really important to me. So I started training again, but then by doing that, what it did help me was get over not playing sport anymore. So, you know, I'd spent 20 years preparing 40 weeks of the year to have a massive physical challenge on a Friday, Saturday or Sunday. So, and that's the thing I missed a lot. So I started trying to replicate that with a bit of fitness, you know, like set myself a challenge on the watt bike and running that would last an hour and a half, or do something big. And by doing that, it really helped me get over not playing rugby anymore and moving away from it. And then the more, as I've got older and older, the more I've thought about things, the more I love training. I love having a goal, and I love, you know, like it's like having a North Star, isn't it? You went to a marathon or you went to IRAX, you got to get fit for it. So I think it keeps you on track. It's almost like you mentioned the accountability at the start, socially from other people. Well, I call it a bit of an hard deadline, because if you don't get fit for a marathon, you look like a twat, aren't you, when you don't do it properly, or you don't get fit for IROX and you roll around in an hour and 40 minutes. When I think it's good for you to have those kind of goals. So for me, that was my long-winded way of saying I love physical challenges. I realise it's a big part of who I am, and it's something that I do really enjoy doing, probably more than most things in life.
Interesting there, because you've been doing that from such a young age. You mentioned there that you're always building to a date of completion, whether it be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday game of rugby. I'll probably never leave you that feeling, will it?
No, I think it'll always be part. I think I'm goal-driven, and I think being in an environment that is goal-driven too, like, only adds to that, doesn't it? It makes it more about, you know, every game you've got to win that goal, you've got a goal every week. So I think it only adds to that, and I think that sense of accomplishment for me, I think it's really... The thing with physical sensitive achievements, it's really tangible, isn't it? It's black and white. You either do it or you don't. You know, whereas most of life is shades of grey, I think. So I think having that clarity of whether you've achieved a goal or not, for me, works for me.
Being in the rugby league fraternity there, why do some men find it so hard once they retire?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. I think it's difficult for lots of different athletes to retire, and I think it's to do with identity. I think lots of not just rugby league players, but athletes in general, their identity is wrapped up with them being an athlete. So they see themselves as that athlete rather than somebody who's being an athlete. And it's a subtle change, but it's a massive change. So it was interesting. I was watching the strongman over Christmas, and there was a guy, I can't remember his name now, terrible names, from Canada. And they asked him, how does it feel to be a strong man? He says, I'm not a strong man. He says, at the moment, I'm being a strong man, like I used to be a golfer, like I used to be something else. When this is done, I won't be a strong man anymore. So I'm not a strong man, I'm being a strong man. He got it. He knew his identity is not wrapped up in him being a strong man. So for me, because I wasn't good playing rugby when I was younger, as good as all the others, didn't sign till I was 19, my identity has never been wrapped up wholly in me being a rugby league player. It's just something that I do. It's not something that I am, and they're the differences I think that allow me to move on from playing. And that's the difficulty I think players have, is the ones that they see themselves just purely as a rugby player. I find it really hard when that's taken away from you. And it's like, if anybody has their identity taken away from them, they find it difficult to do.
Were there ever a period there? So you signed at 19. Were there ever a period where you were like, I'm not going to do this anymore?
Yeah, my period into getting into the first team was really tough. You know, I had to trial for 12 weeks at a club to get a contract. I played a bit in the academy, then did a year in the Alliance second team. Got sent out to Australia. I had a choice to go to Dewsbury, Australia. I went to Australia. Then the coach said he'd ring me, you know, once a week, run me once in 7 months out there. Came back, went on loan to Featherstone. Then after being on loan at Featherstone, they said they weren't going to give me a contract anymore. Then, you know, Brian Noble, to his credit, fought my corner. He was an assistant coach, fought my corner with the board, got me a contract. Then I trained as hard as, because I just thought I'm in the last chance saloon here, you know, they didn't want to give me a contract anyway, so I trained as hard as I ever had done that pre-season. But then I had to win 13-man matches in a row to get into the first team to have a chance of playing it.
How come you weren't getting a sniff then when you were playing so well?
I think me and Matt Elliott, I don't think he had. I think a lot of times the coaches and players, it's opinions, isn't it? And I think he probably wasn't of the opinion that I was going to be a first-team player or was doing enough to be a first-team player. So I was winning these man of the matches from the players I played alongside, whereas in his eyes, I probably weren't doing enough to do it. And eventually I got into the team because he had not much choice to do it.
Did that motivate you?
Yeah, of course it does, doesn't it? You know, you've got to be motivated by... I think it's different because when you're younger, so I was motivated because I come from nothing, so I'm thinking this is my chance to actually earn some money and give myself a better life. So I'm motivated at the start by money. I'm motivated by people who tell me I can't do it, and I'm motivated by trying to be my best. But how you're motivated at the beginning of any difficult journey is different to the end, isn't it? You know, when you are older and fully professional, you're not motivated by people telling you can't do it. You're motivated by just being as good as you can possibly be. So when I was younger, yeah, being people telling me that I can't do it did motivate me. It motivates everyone. There's a guy I've been lucky enough, you know, to become involved with Paul Sewell in Hull. Paul Sewell's a bit like the Richard Branson of Hull. And he told me once, he said, JP, pissed off people change the world. And it's true. You know, if you think about anybody who's been pissed off about something, they normally do something about it. So if someone questions your ability, it pisses you off, doesn't it? So you can either sulk about it and do fuck all, or you can do something about it. So I think we all use that. You can turn like a negative into a positive, I think, around that way. So I think it is useful at times to use people telling you can't do something or saying you're not good enough to say, well, yeah, I can be good enough.
100%.
Yeah.
Did Australia boost your game when you did 7 months over there?
Yeah, I learned. It's a good question. Again, I was fortunate there that my coach, he was a guy called Greg Mackey. Now, Greg Mackey played for Hull and Warrington in the like 80s. And Greg Mackey taught me so much about the mental side of the game, how important it is to be, you know, the difference between your best game and your worst game is never much physically, it's mentally that's the difference. And I learned a lot from him mentally around what it takes to be a good pro, what it takes to be. And we didn't see eye to eye at the time, we had a lot of disagreements. But as you look back as you're older, he was only trying to do the right thing by me. So, yeah, it did really lift my game. And it made me also thought, I've invested a lot here. You know, I've spent 8 months out here living in Australia. I need to try make it here. I've got to try my best to try and make it here because just got to try and do it. And I think that on top of, first of all, not being given a contract, then a 1-year contract made me just so motivated to do it.
Let's talk about playing against the Aussies. How does that compare to when you're playing against the English lads?
Yeah, I mean...
Peacock hated Aussies, didn't he? He hated them.
Well, you can use hate in the best possible way. I think you want to play against it when you get to the top of your game. You want to play against the Aussies because they're the benchmark, right? You know, the say they're the best in the world, and when you're playing against the Aussies, you just know there's no weak links there in the team. You know, normally when you're playing a game of Super League, there's probably 4 or 5 players that you know mentally you can break them down and you'll be able to take advantage of them, and we'll win the game through them being a bit weaker mentally than the other players. And you know, when you get to that elite level against Australia, none of them are like that. On occasionally they might have 1 or 2 in there, and you know that it's just going to be on, and you have to bring your best. And I like that pressure of having to bring your best. And you speak to most of the British boys, their best memories in their lives are not winning grand finals. It's when you beat Australia, because they are the best in the world. There's no 2 ways about it. And I think in any sport, you want to play against the best, and you want to beat the best. So for me, when I first played against them, I was nervous as anything playing against them. Probably lacked a bit of self-belief, but as I got into it more, I just saw this is fucking great. You're playing against the best in the world. Let's bring your best.
Was it the physicality of the Aussies, or just more fluidity, playing well, just the unit?
Everything. So they're all physically fit. You know, the far many more players play the sport in Australia. I mean, there's as many players. There's as many juniors under 16 in one district in Sydney as we've got playing in the whole of this country, you know, so they've got a far bigger...
Talent pool's massive.
Yeah, talent pool, gene pool's massive, so you're playing against really fit players, but you're playing against players who are really mentally switched on, who just know their role, stick to their role, and extremely skillful as well with it. So with that comes some heartbreak, you know, losing games in last minutes and that, but, you know, they're the arenas you want to play where you really tested yourself. You know, if I could get a chance to go back and play a game again, it'd be play the Aussies in Australia again, because that's for me the most difficult thing to do in rugby league.
I think most iconic moment, everyone will probably mention it to you, when the Willie Mason one.
Yeah.
That'll forever live. That's just
Probably still one of the biggest
That's
thoughts about
just that's
fights in rugby
forever
league
going to be
nowadays.
there. That'll never ever leave you. That.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's a great thing for me to go because obviously we had a lot of success at Leeds, and you know, amateur clubs are quite tribal out there. And if you go in amateur clubs that are not in Leeds, they're like the fucking Leeds player. But no, I don't get too much of that because you all go back to that Great Britain incident and Willie Mason. And look, the story behind that is that I knew when I was captain, I was going to be captain probably at the end of the year 2006. I knew it was going to be a tough tour, and I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to lead by example here. Anything happens, I'm going to be first bloke in here. And we had a game against Newcastle select team in Australia, and we had a bit of a scrap happen there.
That with Gareth Hock, that?
Yeah, Gareth Hock was there. Mickey Iams, this lad started with Mickey Iam. So I was first in there, got sin-binned in that, and then the stuff happened with Stu, and you just because you've been thinking about it a lot, you just go on autopilot and just got involved with it without even knowing. And you don't think much of it at the time. But then, because we won that game and we had, I think it would still be maybe iconic, but just off the facts, the last time we beat Australia and we beat them that day, and we were out the next day and all Aussies were buying me beers for having a few with him. And I've seen Willie since, you know, and we're fine with it. You know, whatever happens on the pitch stays on the pitch. But it's just, I think it's just a good example of leading by example, right? Standing up for your teammates.
Dissect it a little bit more. Going into that actual game, what were your thoughts on Willie Mason going in? Was he a bit of an intimidating player as you were going in?
I'm not intimidating, but you knew that they had a really physical pack. You know, he's a big guy. I mean, like, I'm tall, but he's this guy 6'7" and, you know, best part of 20 stone. And then I knew there was loads of physical build-up in the week, you know, loads of chitter-chatter in the paper. So you knew it was going to be on in the game, and you knew you were going to have to be good with what you were doing. So I don't think it was intimidating, but I think just, you know, when you play the Aussies and playing against these type of guys, you can't give them fucking inch. So that's the mentality you go in with.
He would have bully in that game, wasn't he? Because he did Longy as well, didn't he? Like off the ball.
Yeah, Longy too. Yeah, well, the week before it, David Kidwell had absolutely smashed him, hadn't he? David Kidwell like shoulder charged him when he could do it and just like popped out like that. So I think he was trying to protect his image as an hardman.
Before we change gears a little bit, you know, interesting point there. You know, when you mentioned when you're playing Super League, and you could pinpoint maybe 4 or 5 individuals who were the weak link.
You don't want me? I'm not naming names.
No names, but more from a coaching standpoint. Is that done when you're building up to the game that week? Is that the game plan that you're going through? Right, these are the weak links in the chain. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, you to speak about people. You know, coaching wise, if someone particularly stood out that you know you could take advantage of, that we'd make sure we'd do that. But then you speak amongst players and go, like, he's a soft cunt. You know, we can get on top of him, or you know, like, we need to be good with this guy. We've got to be good with this guy, and he's going to be here all day. So that's the way you've got to be mentally switched on for him. But some of the weaker players, you know, you could get them rattled, get them off the game, or you know, they might make 5 tackles in a row, but a couple of others will miss. You know, it might be mentally weak, might be fitness weak, might be emotionally weak. You know, there's lots of different ways to be. You know, to let your side down, there's lots of different ways you can let your side down, I think.
Last rugby question for me, then I want to keep it personal development.
Go on.
Sam Burgess at Warrington, interested to hear your insights in how he's going to go coaching.
I think Sam will be great there. I think Sam needs time. I think Sam needs his time to get the team that he wants together there. That's not saying the players there are not the players he wants, but he'll have players he'll have worked with in the past that, you know, he'll bring in and make a difference to Warrington. And if you're being honest, you know, what we'd say, Warrington over the last few years have always just had a bit of a, I think almost since you had the retirement of Adrian Morley and Benny Westwood and you know, like Louis and Vinnie Anderson, and Warrington used to have a pretty tough pack, I thought. No, there's no thought about it, they did have it, and I think that's the reasons why they were successful. But certainly in the last few years, I think they've got a bit of a softer underbelly, and I think Sam will change that. I think Sam, you know, will expect his best from all the players, both like technically in the game, but also commitment and effort wise. So I think you'll see a team that, okay, they want to win the league, right? They might not do that because they might not have the talent to do it, but I think you'll see a team that's more connected with the Warrington crowd, because you see a team giving 100% and giving a shit about everything they do. And that's the one thing in any sport you can recognise, can't you? Even if you don't understand the sport technically, you can recognise effort, can't you? 100%. But if you support sport, then fucking hell, you can recognise effort, can't you? And that, I think, that's all you want, innit? You know, when I'm watching sport in England or whatever, I just want people that give 100%. And if we lose, well, I'll take that. But
I've butchered his name, but have you been watching darts with a 16-year-old phenom?
Luke
Littler.
16, he looks 13.
Mate, what's wrong?
Fucking does
Tough
look horrendous, doesn't he?
paper round. I thought I had granddad face, but he's fucked up.
He's bad. I didn't even see him until you.
I want to see his passport. It's like them Cuban athletes. I don't think. I think he's fucking older than 16. And it shows a passport, man. I mentioned it to you. I said we should get him on podcast, but I don't think you even know who he was, did you?
I did. I didn't actually know we were at all until you said it.
Well, it's reason, you know, these like sports like your darts, golf, and stuff like that. Do you watch that Jimmy Bullard thing when he's golfing? You into?
No.
He's just doing a fantastic job. Him of like putting. And it piggybacks to another question: is how do the RFL bring the game on so a younger audience crave it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got some like Utopia for me. So let's say we had Utopia. I think we need a full kind of rebrand here. But you know, if you could come up with an idea that would just go through, and I'm allowed to do whatever I like. My idea or a thought of mine would be, and this was discussing with some other people, would be, I think what we need to really like the game in this country is to go a bit like with the American football, but to have like 4 leagues of 7. Okay, so you've got 3 of those 7s are the Aussie, New Zealand and Papua New Guinean teams, right? And then the 7 we've got are the best 7 English and French teams, okay? And what they do is in each league of 7, you play each other home and away, right? And then you play 14 of the other 21 teams home and away. So you play 7 Aussie teams in Aussie, 7 Aussie teams at home, but you've got all the English fixtures as well. And then the top 2 out of each league of 7 go into a playoff system, so you've got 8 in the playoffs. So it's like the American football where they play each other home and away in there, and then they play a load of leagues around it. And then beneath that, I'd have a league of 10 teams full-time here, and every like 3 years, I'd rotate the bottom 2 out of the 7 who've got the least amount of points over 3 years. You know, if you finish bottom 3 years in a row, you only get 1 point for that each time, 3 points, and the top 2 come up, so it's still open for all them other teams. And I reckon that'd save the sport over here, but the Aussies would never do it. But I reckon we'd have a worldwide competition. We'd only be there for 7 weeks. They'd only be here for 7 weeks. You'd have loads of variety in the games that you play. You might play Canberra Raiders once every 5 years at home. So can you imagine? You'd sell them out. You'd sell all the crowds out. You'd have 25,000 here. People would watch it on the TV. But the problem is people don't watch Rugby League because you see Wigan Saints 4 times a year. So why would you watch it? And it doesn't excite people outside the sport. Wigan Saints excites people inside the sport, but outside the sport, it touches a few people because they realise what a great game it could be. But when you see like I don't know, like a Leeds going to play Melbourne at home, or I don't know, it's a Papua New Guinean side playing Wigan in Port Moresby as part of a worldwide league, that gets eyeballs on it. And the problem is that our competition, you look at the best competitions, the ones that get the most eyeballs on them are the ones that create games that you don't see all the time, like the European competitions, the NFL in America.
How open are the RFL to change, or they're just set in their ways?
I think they are open to change. It's just doing it, isn't it? And I think it's money from TV that counts, and that's the problem for Rugby League, is that, so if you take football with Sky Sports will always pay over for football, because by paying over, they give the clubs more money, but then they keep the best talent.
Yeah.
So that by paying more, the league gets stronger still all the time, right? But I think they've seen Rugby League. I think Sky Sports see Rugby League as wallpaper. It's a cheap way of filling time. So it's in their interest.
It's a shame how good sport is as well, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know, I think when it's played at its elite level, Rugby League is just one of the greatest sports in the world to watch. It's every athlete you speak to who plays professionally in any other sport, when they watch like the elite games, the top 5% games, they're fucking blown away by it, and rightly so with it. But we're missing. I don't think we see too many of those games over here these days, and I just think it just needs freshening up a bit. And I think they are open to change, but it's difficult to do it because of TV rights.
I think that's probably one of the reasons why I stopped. I stopped being interested in rugby when I was about 21 years old, and it was purely because of that reason. It was just repetitive. Playing was repetitive. You played the same amateur teams around here.
Yeah.
Watching it on TV or repetitive. Like 1 year, Cass would be at top. Next year, Leeds would be at top, and it just always switched around, but never too much. No one new ever joined any new clubs. No games ever got more exciting than the other. So yeah, it definitely got.
Yeah, you're right. You know, and we put, when we was at Leeds or Bradford before, we played like teams sometimes 5 or 6 times in a year. No one wants to see. No one wants to play in it. You get bored of playing in it. So never mind watching it. I'll never mind watching it. If you're a neutral who's just got a bit of a taste of rugby league, you're not going to tune into it, are you? You know,
it's like a fight. You won't watch. Let's say if a not boring, but a boxing match happened and it went 12 rounds and it would like a split decision or a unanimous decision. Sorry. And then, they're fighting again in 6 weeks. You're like, I'm not fucking watching that again. I just waited an hour watching 12 rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever do any of the rugby league boxing?
No, none of that. No.
I'd like to have seen that.
Yeah. I did a bit training boxing with. After I finished playing, it was good to try and do that, just learn how to do it, and just, it's like chess, isn't it? That's like chess, but you're getting punched in the face. I'm
going to say, why don't you just get into boxing since you fought that often on
field?
field?
I know, but I thought, do you know what when I was doing the training and stuff like that, I was thinking to myself when I'm sparring, I thought, I've been fucking whacked loads of times in my head. I probably don't really need this more in my head.
Yeah, just more concussions.
Yeah, I don't need any more of this. And that's kind of drove me to thinking, I don't want to do this.
Especially if you're at an age where you're not going to take it 100% serious to try and take over the world. What do you think to Sonny Bill Williams doing the change?
Yeah, I thought he's been outstanding. You know, he's just a great athlete, I think. But just to get in a ring, it's not like playing rugby league, is it? You know, you've nobody next to you. You know, when you even just from sparring a bit and you get in, it's you, isn't it? You know, and I don't mind that, but I think him doing that just unbelievable. Just what an incredible athlete he is to be able to mix it in all three. I'm doing it in all three.
I watched a little bit of you on Alex Simmons' podcast naming your perfect 13.
Yeah.
Let's narrow it down a bit. Who would be or who has been your top 3 teammates and why?
Top 3 teammates. So I think, you know, a guy I love playing alongside and just did it a couple of times for Bradford, but then internationally was Adrian Morley. You know, I love playing with Moz more than any other player because you always knew with Moz he was gonna give 100%. He'd never back down from anybody. The harder it got, the more he loved the game with it. And off the pitch, he's just a top fella. You know, he's a great bloke to have around in camp and have with you as well with that. Then I think another favourite internationally would be Sam Burgess. I just like playing with Sam because when he was coming through as a younger player, he was a player who could make that difference at international level, and we've hardly had any of those. And when he first broke through as he was going to the NRL and playing for the Lions in the first 3 or 4 years, Great Britain and England, we got us that close to beating him all the time because he was just so good at what he was doing. And just remember the game he played for South when he fractured his cheekbone and won man of the match. I just thought that's the bravest performance I've ever seen on a rugby league pitch. I don't think we'll ever see one like that again.
What, first collision as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
First collision, and he won man of the match. That's the big thing. Like a lot of players
could have gone missing, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's a lot of players had gone off.
100%.
A lot of players had been a passenger, but he fucking won man of the match. So, and I don't think we'll see that kind of bravery in a rugby league pitch ever again because of the protocols we've got in place.
Yeah, I was going to say you won't even be allowed to. They see you clash heads like that, they're pulling you straight off.
Yeah,
now,
exactly. You will not see that again. You know, that's like a once in our lifetime kind of act of bravery on a rugby league field. And then I think I'm not going to cop out here, but it could be any number, about 5 or 6 from the Leeds Rhinos off the back of that I really enjoyed playing with. So love playing with Kev. You know, he's fantastic. Very, very smart, very, very clever, always on point, ultra cool under pressure, and just knew, you know, a great clutch player. Then Danny Maguire, I love playing with Kylie Luluai, Rob Burrow, Jamie Jones, Big Keith Senior. I don't want to miss people out here. I'd probably put Gaz Ellis in there as well. They're guys that I really enjoyed my time playing with alongside. And there's other guys like Frogger and Ryan Bailey as well. Those guys as well. So I was looking at Leeds that there was a group of players that you could stick all in third place there, you know, and I think that's the reason why we won a lot of stuff.
You mentioned a few boys there who started their career in the Super League and moved to Australia. Is it a regret at all that you didn't play some of your prime years in Australia? Do you ever think about that?
Yeah. I think if it had been now, I'd have been out there because there's such a big difference in the amount of money you get paid. It'd have been foolish not to do it. And I look back now and think I wish I'd have done it. I had quite a few opportunities to do it, but I had an amazing time with the Rhinos along the way with that, and I think I just saw my chances of playing Great Britain, saying the World Cup Challenge were my chances to show, you know what, I can play at this level, and I've no belief that I'd have made it, and I've no doubt that I'd have made it in the NRL. But yeah, I mean, I had quite a few opportunities to do it, but it didn't take them, so I've no regrets with it. It is what it is.
Yeah, career's a career, innit, mate? You've done a good job. I want to change gears a little bit.
Okay.
So when we were doing the research, I was seeing some public speaking.
Yeah.
Did you find that easy to get involved with? Public speaking, when I started doing it when I was younger, were a massive fear. I'm sure a couple of times I just forgot my name.
It's the biggest fear. It's the biggest fear of
than dying. People.
Fear,
the number one fear.
Yeah.
How did you transition into that and speaking in big groups like that?
So I think my transition into doing it formally in front of people who are not rugby league people happened because I was doing it anyway as a captain. So you know, started to progress to be a leader in the Bulls dressing room probably 2003. Did a bit of captaining in 2004. Was captain in 2005, and by the time I ended up speaking, like, motivationally to a group of people who are not involved in rugby league, was 2008. So in that 6 season period, you know, I captained Bradford, captain Leeds for a little bit. I was captain of England, Great Britain. So you learn how to speak to groups of people, because if you don't get it right as a captain, people don't buy into what you're saying, and you need to learn how to do that. So from that, it gave me confidence in doing it in front of people. It doesn't mean I was nervous the first time that I've done it, because I knew there had to be far less swear words in it, and I knew I had to get it on point with what I was doing. But thankfully, I had a great guy, Damien Hughes, who was part of the High Performance podcast now. He was our psychologist on the World Cup trip down under, and it was him who said to me, you know, I think you've got a story to tell people, so I'll help you pull together this story to give you some structure, and I'll get you a little bit of work. So you helped me get this structure together, and then, you know, did a few little pieces, and they went okay, they went well, you know, people liked it. And then from that, I started to think more and more about what's the framework to my success, and how can I deliver that in a talk that can resonate with people, and they go, do you know what? Well, I can do that. And I think that's the aim behind. I think your ultimate aim behind a motivational talk is to get people to believe that they can do, or they can apply what you've done in your field to what they're doing. And I think being able to do that, and then just always trying to learn how to do it. You know, how to structure my talk, how to. Being a student of it, basically. You know, I was a student at Rugby League. I needed to become a student of motivational talking and how to deliver a talk in person in the best possible way.
Something you really enjoy?
I do it, yeah, I like doing it. I like trying to make a difference. That's more of a motivator for me. So sometimes, speaking in front of 500 people, or you can get nervous, but I just want to make a difference to the people who are listening, so that makes me want to do a good job with it, you know. And sometimes as well, just touching on what we spoke about earlier, is I have found that if I am feeling a bit too off, some days you feel out of sorts, don't you? You don't fucking feel great, or I don't feel like I'm not where I need to be. I imagine 2 or 3 people in the audience saying he's going to be crap, and by doing that, it pisses me off.
I
turn them around and I do a good job. So I use that, and where it comes from was I was going to do a talk, and I hear this guy, yeah, you're not going to be any good, and that's like, fuck you. I'm like, afterwards they're like, you're way better than I thought I did. It's like, whatever, you know. But I thought it's a good way. Then I'm going to use that going forward, you know.
Yeah, it's the one.
Obviously, speaking on stage, like you just said, then takes a lot of preparing for. Is that same when it comes to speaking to teammates in a change room? Do you have to prep for it a little bit, or does a lot of that come from emotion?
Yeah, that's a good one. That, so it's a bit of both, right? So I think some of it comes from prep. You're thinking about what's going to motivate who, and what's going to get the group emotionally. So you'll be starting to think about things Monday, Tuesday, and by the time you get to Friday, you've got a feel of how you want to say things and what's your style of communication going to be. But then other stuff, you've just got to be able to get it across in the right way to the right person, you know. So some people want an insult, some people want an arm around them, and I think you've got to work out where people are in that kind of, where they sit personality-wise with it. And then you just got to be straight with people. Certainly in sport, you just have to be straight and direct with people.
Yeah, that was Sir Alex Ferguson's method, wasn't it? Finding out each individual person and what works for them. It could be giving them loads of shit. talking bad about the family, or it could be like making them feel like they're very special.
Yeah, like Brian McDermott was great at doing that. You know, the week before we played Manly, we played against Wigan, and I was good with the ball, but I was a bit off without it defensively, and we were good friends, and he was my coach. But the week then we had Manly the next week, and I knew he brought me into his office. I could tell. I thought, fucking hell, here we go. Here. I could tell by the look in his face, and he gave me a bit of like it would be a bollocking around my defence. He just said it's not good enough. You're way better than that. It's not good enough. Really brutal conversation. But he knew it'd like firing me, and it did that week. And like I set the tone all week in training in defence, and I come out. I probably had my best defensive game I had all year off the back of that. But he knew by getting into me and challenging me, you'd get the best out of me for this particular game with it.
Dissect that then. So why is it the challenge that then can make you turn the gear up a notch? What do you put that down to?
I think because he's questioning, maybe it's down to identity. It's a good question. Maybe it's down to identity, and he's questioning my identity as being that I perceive to be the best forward at this club. So he said, well, no, actually, defensively, you're not. That's not where I see you. So it gives me my chance to go, okay, then, well, I will do that. I think if you look throughout history, people have been challenged. You either bow down to it or you rise, don't you, off it? And I think it's working out where do some people rise to a challenge, or some people just say, look, come on, we need a bit more from you.
Makes me think about how I'm at the minute. Like, being brutally honest, sat with someone like yourself across from me now, I've almost felt like, because I get challenged by you a little bit, but like other than that, like, I've built a decent business where I'm not cruising, but I feel a bit comfortable, which I don't think's a good word or a good position to be in.
No, I don't think it is.
How do you keep challenging yourself, someone like yourself who's just on it, to keep moving towards your potential? Is that something you think about a lot?
Yeah, it's something. It's a good way. Obviously something you're thinking about, and I think it is right. So that's the reason why I entered IROX. Honestly, I entered IROX competition because I'm doing all this running. And I preach to people all the time, get outside your comfort zone, and you've been fucking around whether you're going to enter it or not. Just bloody enter it and just go do it and see what happens off the back of it. So for me, from that, I think it's about just trying to ask yourself, right, have I really challenged myself this week? You know, on a Friday at the end of the week, have I pushed myself outside my comfort zone? Because there's loads of chances to do it. Or we can start to actively look to do it as well, can't we? By going, yeah, I'm actually going to do that, or thinking about what can I do just to get a bit outside my comfort zone. So I think when things are, because you've built a business up and things are going well for you, I think you've got to deliberately start looking for it.
Well, look for something that scares you almost.
Yeah, I think so. I'll deliberately, push yourself, whether it's in that business or outside that business, just to get that feeling of doing it again. I think you become a bit soft, don't you?
It is. That's what I just feel like now a little bit. I'm just like going through motions, which no one wants to go through the motions. You want to be like in the action, don't you? So that's something I've been thinking about a lot.
Sorry, I'm interrupted there, but you see that in sport though, don't you? People have that get to the top, and then they don't stay there long because they get comfortable and they drop off. They don't try and push themselves again and again and again.
I think that's just down to standards, then. That.
Yeah, I think so. I think standards is important with it, but I do believe outside sports about actively looking for ways to get outside your comfort zone a little bit, ways to push yourself a little bit with it.
What scares Jamie Peacock?
I don't like spiders, to be honest. Apart from spiders, I think the thing that pushes me or would scare me, or has done, would be a fear of mine is, you know, am I successful because of who I am and what I've done before, or the content that I deliver, right? I think that's a scary question, I think, for me to answer. And I think trying to answer that question, or trying to move the dial on that, so the answer is because of the content that you deliver, pushes me to create, you know, to be really good, to create new programs, and to be really honest with myself. And that's a scary question to ask myself, because if I don't ask myself it often, then I think I could end up in 3 or 4 years where your reputation of who you are dissipates, doesn't it? It disappears over time, and might not have business. So my scary question, what scares me, is around that. Is in 4 years' time, do I still have a strong business? What I'm doing, and you know what I mean. What I'm trying to say this off the back of the scary question is, where will I be in 5 years? And the scary part of it is that analogy. Is my business doing well because of who I am or what I deliver? And for me, it's key to try and make sure it's what I deliver. So then 5 years time,
You've shown the example in your rugby career, but you can still reinvent yourself and go do whatever you want.
Yeah, but it's a scary question, I think, for myself, and that's something that you're not fearful of, but it's a scareful thing to do. Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. So you don't want to be who you are today because you had a good rugby career. You want to keep developing your skill and who you are as a person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the question all the time you ask yourself a bit is, right, did they choose me because of what I did or what I'm delivering?
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be too harsh on yourself for that though, because you've achieved something there that most can't do.
Yeah, that's nice to say.
Does that make sense though? Yeah. It's like you were the one that did that.
Yeah.
No one's done that for you. You've done all the hard yards for the career you had.
Yeah.
So to be able to then leverage that, what you've done, to then go build something new and evolve, I think that's. But it's interesting that you think like that.
Yeah, I do, because I think that does drive you a bit, because then it stops you being, comfortable and complacent, doesn't it? And
Agreed.
I think it does mean I should have a business in 5 years' time.
What is the plan for 5 years' time?
What will I be then? 51. My plan is probably to be winding down a bit, really. I think in 5 years' time, I'm pretty full on with my work, really full on with it. But I think by the time I get to 5 years' time, how old will my youngest be? 18. So it'll be different things for me. I hopefully be able to spend a bit more time with them as adults when they're older. So 5 years' time, I'll be looking. Not be working, but maybe doing 3 days a week instead of like fucking every day.
Ellis has got sorry to interrupt.
Go on.
Ellis has got a baby due June.
Yeah, June.
Yeah.
It's going to be his first time being a father. Any advice for the man?
Get used to no sleep at the start of it. I just think the first year a bit for me, if I'm honest, was always, I think a woman has a 9-month connection with a baby before it's even born. So ultimately, when it's born, I think they have a far deeper love and connection with it than you do, and you have to make that effort as a man to make that connection. You only do that by spending time with them. And the biggest thing I would say is, enjoy the periods while they're young and innocent, because it's beautiful actually, and you do miss it as they get older. They evolve, and there's so many other things you admire about them and love about them as they get older. But the period between being 0 and maybe 9, just before they turn 10, where they've got that innocence about them all the way, is just magical. So enjoy that.
Nice. I am looking forward to it. But what you just said then about the sleep thing, I hate, like, even if my missus wakes me up to go to the toilet in the middle at night, I'm like stressed out.
He's got it all to come.
I have got it.
He's got it all to come, mate. This guy.
But
He sleeps with he's got like a Woot watch. If it's not 100%, it's game over for him.
Yeah. If it's not 100%, I'm staying in bed until it is. That's some good advice. What you said there about cherishing the time in them earlier years. A lot of parents would probably, especially not council sort of parents, but just like lower class people would probably be like, right, go and put TV on, go upstairs and do your thing, go and have your tea and Nash, and then or they'd be like, I'm not getting up with kid. They wouldn't want to spend time with it. I don't want to be that person who's like trying to avoid spending time because it's hard work. I want to be fully involved in, like you just said, building a connection from early doors.
I think I really enjoyed it. The one thing I miss about my kids is reading to them on a night time. I love doing that. I love that. I love reading to my kids on a night time. It's just you two and a book together, and you educate them. So
I watched Benedict Kane mature so much when he had his kids.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing really well for himself now, and I think it's really. I love seeing it when rugby league lads retire and they do really well for themselves. Like they just go on and kick on again. No gives me more pleasure than seeing people do that through socials or hearing about people do stuff like that.
He's just got like a relentless drive as Benny.
Yeah.
Whatever he puts in, if he's made a decision, that's it. It's over.
If he's in,
he's in. That's it. And I'm like, I watch him and I'm just like, try and be a bit smarter with it. I try and he's a smart guy, but I mean, just look at it a little bit outward. Bang, now he's straight down wormhole, and that's all she wrote. He's intense.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And he's straight into like 10 different wormholes as well. Not just one, so it's tough.
He got deep into his conspiracy theories, but we'll leave that alone with Jamie today.
Talking about people who continue to work hard and strive for success, Kevin Sinfield, we spoke about him earlier. How much are you appreciating everything that he's doing, and yourself as well, what you're doing for Rugby's cause?
I think the challenges Kev's putting through are incredible, absolutely incredible for Rob. I think the I've said this on a social media post, but I think the two of them have become the North Star, haven't they, for the MND community?
100%.
And they didn't have one. They didn't have one. There were people who were getting ill from it, I knew, and no hope. There's no hope, really, was there? They provided hope for it. And I think the challenges Kev's put himself through, first of all, to help look after Rob, but then to get the money and the funding to build the centre in Leeds, it's just incredible. And I just think it's Kev to a T. Kev's, you know, a very giving person, but also ultimately a really determined person who wants to make a difference. And those two things, being determined and want to make a difference, have allowed him to go on the journey that he's been on. And I still think it's really difficult for people to understand how difficult the challenges are that he's undergone and done them. I just think until you've maybe run half a marathon or a marathon, can you get a grip of just how epic and how mentally tough and what training needs to go in when no one's watching to be able to do them. I mean, to prepare for these last 7 marathons in 7 days under 4 hours, ultra marathons actually. One point he run 3 marathons in 3 days, you know, and that's just in training. And I just think that's some of the stuff people don't see behind it. So I think he's given us a great example of how to be really caring for somebody, how to be a true friend, and also how to be really selfless for somebody as well. And then I just think Rob's an inspiration. You know, I heard him say through his machine the other day that he's never going to feel sorry for himself. And I just think that just somebody, he was like that as a player. He wouldn't feel sorry for himself, and he was a funny guy, really funny guy. But he had a streak in him. You know, he had that toughness streak in him. And I think you're seeing that now. You're seeing that sense of humour that he's got, but then that sense of toughness inside him that he's not going to pity himself. So I think ultimately they both give us a bit of perspective, don't they, when we're feeling a bit shitty about ourselves. That people can take on far greater challenges and people in far worse situations than ourselves.
Rob Burrows was always a tough cookie. Who was the guy who was much bigger than him and he squared up to him?
Yeah,
that's the one.
It's like Scrappy-Doo having a fight. But that's him, you know, that summed him up. That's the reason why he was such a good player. I mean, there's been loads of little players play the game, and there's only been a couple who have been ultimately really successful, and they've been the toughest too, Alfie Langer and Rob Burrows, because they were really tough, and they were prepared to put their body in places where small men shouldn't put their bodies.
100%. Let's just do a full circle here, back round to the end of your career. You did a stint at Hull KR?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did you come back as a player as well?
Yeah. So I was at Hull KR with a director of rugby, and we was having a really difficult time and a difficult year. And we were down to about 15, 16 players, and I knew this had happened. So I thought the best way I could contribute was to try and play. So, you know, I finished my Leeds career. You know, that was going to be the end of my career, winning the grand final, finishing the treble, hugging Kevin Sinfield. But then a year later, I decided to get rid of the fairy tale, and I finished my actual rugby league career, watched a drop goal sail over to get relegated. So that's the difference in sport.
I was actually with you that night because I went on the Mad Monday, whatever it was called. It were in Leeds.
Yeah.
After that, it was just crazy to watch that game, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. Yes, I mean we should have we had the game won, didn't we? That was the killer thing about it. I think we were 10-2 up, weren't we? And they scored 2 tries in 2 minutes to draw level. Then he hit a 55 metre
Hail Mary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just, we should have finished the game out, should have closed the game out, and I didn't think we deserved to go down. You never do though. When you do you? You never do feel like you deserve to go down. But I thought we'd done enough in that game and the playoffs to stay off. But that's sport. It's not to be.
You know the retirement there. Then what's the missus saying when you're getting boots back on this year?
Well, I just I said that's all I can do, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do it. I committed to him, so I'm gonna get out there and do it.
How did body feel?
It was horrible. It was horrible. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the player I was a year ago because I'd spent 3 weeks trying to get fit to play. So just thought I could bring my own experience and add a bit of value with it that way as well. But yeah, tough. But you learn from it. You know, I was thinking about this the other day that I have no regrets whatsoever about going to Hull KR and everything that went on there. There's some things for sure I'd done differently, but the experience it gave me and the people I've met and the journey it's took me on, that's been an important part of it, as well as all the success at the Rhinos and at the Bulls.
Because we spoke about how players transition into different things, either become successful and driven, like people we spoke about, Ben Kay and yourself. some people go the other way. Was that your plan once you finished rugby to go into management?
Yeah, I wanted to do that. I've been to university and got like an MBA, you know, Masters in Sports and Business Administration. And I always thought coaching, the issue with coaching in England is there's four or five good jobs. But really, you've only got a 6-week contract because you lose 6 games in a row, you're probably not going to be in that job. Yeah. And you lose one of those jobs, there's no other jobs around it. So that's like the narrowest, smallest field of doing things ever. So I thought, I don't want to go in that because that's not looking after my family properly by doing that. So I thought there's always going to be more scope to be in the management side of things, and you can move management, you can move from sport to sport, whereas coaches, you can't do that. You don't see a coach be successful in another field, I don't think.
And that how long did you do, 3 or 4 years at OKR?
I did a year and a bit full time, then went part time for a couple of years, and then my business kind of took off, my other business.
And had you already been lining that up, the other business to take over in time?
I started doing it, yeah, and I got Tim Sheens was at OKR, and you know he likes to control a lot of things, and I thought, man, probably best just going part time here and doing a bit of that and focusing on. I was doing the England tour manager job at the time as well, which I liked doing, and then focusing on my business and just trying to see which one's going to grow organically, and then it just got to a position now where this one's going really well.
What do you provide with your business? That we're coming up to like 2 o'clock now. You've got to be leaving at 2 o'clock. So let's finish on the business.
It's gone quick, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's mate. Always does, doesn't it?
So yeah, like I do. I think this. I was trying to summarise. I reckon there's 3 parts to like elite performance, high performance. At the bottom, you've got your well-being. Bottom of the pyramid is the well-being. In the middle is personal development, and at the top's leadership, apex. You need your well-being to be able to perform well. You need to perform well as an individual before you can be a real leader, I think. So I do a bit of things in all 3 of those. I've got some well-being programs. I do some personal development around how to be your best individually, you know, around the motivational talk. Then I do some leadership coaching as well. So kind of all that's my pyramid of the things I do, and I think that's the pyramid of performance. I think the more I think about things.
And is that a lot of one-to-one coaching stuff, or is it like courses?
Yeah, that's so I do like coaching through groups in businesses. So I'll generally work with a group of 6 to 10 people in a business, take them through a 50-day process of using a book I've created and 5 one-to-one sessions in a group session. Or I can do like group sessions for more people, like 30 days apart. So we'll do a group session on well-being or personal development. Then they've got to go away and work on it for 30 days. And in 30 days' time, they come back and present to the group what they've been doing. So like we spoke about, it's accountability. Like a lot of people, you get motivational talk. But people I don't believe, sustain long-term change off of motivational talk. But if you do something for 30 days, you've got a chance of creating that change. So what I've tried to create the most accountability ever in is so that you have your session, then they work with a pair, so you're socially accountable to each other, then you're accountable to the group to present at the end of 30 days, because if you've not done anything, you look like a dick really, right? So yeah.
It's smart that, because there you say, it's perfect what you say there, that motivation's fleeting, innit?
Yeah, it is, yeah, motivation fleeting. You want to create habits.
Yeah.
Habits.
You're getting them into motion quickly there. If they're having to stand up and speak at the end of it, it's
putting them straight in spotlight.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've seen it as work, and because I keep it really, I just like simplicity in life. I think simple's best, and just keep it really simple. Show them that they feel they can do it. Then generally get really good success stories out of it, where people make change and it sticks with them, which is just great. Seeing it that people do things that they probably know they should be doing, then they go out and do them 30 days, and like, I'm going to stick doing this now. So it's great.
That's fantastic, mate.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best in the future, mate, and thank you very much.
Thank you for your time,
us,
Jamie.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I've loved
you.
that.
Good work,
really
boys.
enjoyed
Good
that.
work, boys.
Thank you.